Welcome to Your Inspired Journey. I'm Carla Andrews, and I have a great opportunity, and it's an honor to be here with our lovely guest, and her name is Kathy Sanderson. She has the background of counseling and therapist and helps you to connect with your inner child to be able to heal a lot of the deep wounds that usually happen in our childhood. Welcome, Kathy. How are you?
I'm great, Carla. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Well, it is a pleasure to have you here. I know we've talked briefly about a lot of the great things that you're doing with your clients, with you're doing with, with others in regards to just healing. And so if you could share a little bit about who you are and how did you get onto this journey and how you became an entrepreneur?
I live in the UK. I'm from Birmingham in the UK. I'm mum to 3 children, and I sort of like believe that this was it. That was it. This is my life. And we were trying for our 4th baby, and it didn't happen. I lost baby at 6 weeks on my youngest child's first birthday. That was a cycle that just continued and continued. For 4 years, we were either pregnant or miscarrying. And it brought me to this spiritual junction, really. Not knowing what was going on. I'm not good enough. I can't carry children, although I've already got 3 children, blessed to have 3 amazing children. There's something wrong with me. I'm incapable. I'm falling apart. I'm no good. And the more I delved into that, along with fighting depression from losing a baby, 9 years ago, just after my daughter was born. And the first time I ever went for a scan, I didn't even know you could go for a dating scan and there would not be a baby there. I hadn't watched that program with Jennifer Aniston before, that film. And coming home that time and just like lying on the bed and feeling myself sink lower and lower and lower, I can really understand why people fall apart after one miscarriage, because it's all your hopes and your dreams and everything. And that baby, I mean, it was 12, 13 weeks when I went for that scan. Wow. So that baby, already existed. It had a life. I'd already planned it was going to play with its sister. Started to get little things, and to go and find that there was no baby. And already then I was starting to feel like a failure. Everyone else is having babies. Why couldn't I? Where's that baby gone? How come there was no baby? It wasn't even that the baby had died. There was no baby in my womb. My body was telling me one thing. I lay on that bed and I sunk lower and lower and lower. And my husband came up and he said, I know we've lost our baby and I know you feel so sad. But you've still got me and you've still got our daughter. And I literally had to claw myself up through that and get myself out of that black pit. And I did it. And I trained to be a breastfeeding counsellor because I had problems breastfeeding with my first daughter. Did all of that training. So that was going to be my career. But of course, after that miscarriage, I had an ectopic pregnancy. That's 3 losses because my daughter was actually they're sort of like a twin gets absorbed, isn't it? A twin pregnancy. And we only knew that because I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I said, there's a sac there that didn't develop, and we never thought anything about it. Never. I'd already lost 3 babies. I went up through my training, qualified, my son was about 5-6 months old. Started running the breastfeeding classes for pregnant ladies. And then I just kept losing babies, and there's just no way that I could be in a room with ladies who were pregnant when I should have been pregnant, and they were 30 weeks and I would have been 30 weeks, and I couldn't say to everyone, I had a baby in my tummy too. It was, I'm 30 weeks, really. My baby should be growing. And I just couldn't do it. And I wanted to tell everyone. And I went through that stage where I'd be telling everyone how many babies I'd lost. Because I wanted people to know that I had been pregnant. It was weird. So I couldn't do that job at all. When I started losing them again, I went on this spiritual journey. And I started working with healers. I found out that feelings that I was feeling, not being able to carry these babies, not being good enough, were all related to my childhood, where I didn't feel loved, didn't feel wanted, I didn't feel important or cared about. And I've since realised that my need to keep punishing myself, I went on to have 12 more miscarriages in that 4-year period. Finally stopped punishing myself in May last year. It was a kind of punishment, punishing myself that I can't do it, so I'm going to keep going and going and going and going, because that's what I do. My mum used to call me a Rottweiler. I would keep going and make sure that I got the result that I wanted. It made me realise why I was still like that, because I was still trying to be noticed, to know that I was good enough from my childhood. So that is what brought me to what I do now. And I was already an energy healer. Everyone who was coming to me with inner child stuff, as they do. When people come to you, they're always showing you what you need to work on. I just didn't believe it, because I had everything in my childhood. So, I didn't have abuse that would be taken from me from social services. So many other people had worse childhoods than I did. When it actually came up, I again felt guilty, selfish, undeserving, because I had a good childhood. Everyone saw me had a good childhood, and I was talking to a friend at school, from school. She was saying, but I would never have known that, because you went on all the school trips, you always had clean clothes, you had everything you wanted to. And I'm like, yeah, but I still didn't feel loved. That's the damaging part.
So that's interesting, because relative, when you looked in your past, in your childhood, relatively, you felt that you had a decent childhood, but you still didn't feel loved. It was something was missing, and then you believe that is the way that caused you to feel not enough or not wanted, and it really impacted your life, didn't it?
Absolutely, because I was always fighting to be better.
Mm.
So things will always work out for me, but it would be a fight. I have to break that, and I am breaking it. But I had to fight for attention. My brother always seemed to get attention from my mum. My dad was a good man who went to work, worked hard, came home, went and rested at the pub, went and did his sports and things. So he learned from his dad. But if it was only me and my brother and my mum all the time at home, and it always seemed like he got the attention, who was left for me?
So you felt a void.
Total
And
void.
you felt like you had to seek attention. You had to
And
seek you had
always
to
prove.
things seek attention and get approval. So how did you work through that? Now that you're seeing how your childhood impacted this journey that you were taking toward who you are today, how did you take that lesson and then bring it forth to who you are today?
As I was talking, I was reminded, I did go through counselling a lot. My mum paid for it when I was a child, because I'm a teenager and in my 20s, because I wasn't happy, and I did have suicidal thoughts and all of those types of things. Nothing major, again, would never have been hospitalised. I had a few little, where I took a few too many paracetamol, but never major. And one of the counsellors told me about displacement. But they explained it to me as my fault. So I felt jealous of my brother. My brother came when I was 18 months old. He took your mummy's love away from you, and it was all me. Blame me, blame me, blame me. And of course, it would have been because that was my belief system.
Yeah.
If I was going to attract a counsellor who was going to tell me it was my fault. And it's only since doing this work, yes, my mum does love me and did love me very, very much and only ever wanted to give me the best. But her upbringing, or her competition, her mum played her sister and her off against her all the time. She watched her mum and dad fight, well, not fight, her mum just bossed her dad around. So she didn't have the best upbringing and she didn't have the best example of parenting skills. So she tried to give us everything that she could, which was financial. She thought she was loving us, but she didn't know how to because she'd never been shown.